Hare Krishna, Namaste all. Today I am coming on this video. Before starting, let me introduce myself. I am Dr. M. A. Krishnan. I am Associate Professor and Head of the Department of Dravya Guna Vijnana in Rajiv Gandhi Ayurveda Medical College, Mahi. I happen to come to this video mainly because I wanted to ask certain questions to respected Bhushan Padwardhan sir, whose speech I happened to hear yesterday online in connection with birth centenary celebrations of Vaidyaratnam P.S. Variya sir. So I happened to see the talk of Bhushan Padwardhan ji, and as I have no other means to ask certain questions based on his lecture, I thought of sharing it as a video so that at some point of period I'll be able to share this video with him at least and would be able to hear him back. So with this honest intention, I have made this video, and I hope that Ayurveda community will be also benefited by my questions in future. So let's come to the points. First of all, I suggest that you watch his video first so that what I am asking will be better clarified to you. Especially the audience of Ayurveda, So the very first point, what Padwardhan ji told was that COVID-19 is bringing Ayurveda and modern medicine to the same level of limitations. So the same level of limitations means actually Ayurveda, how Ayurveda is viewing COVID-19. The perspective of Ayurveda in COVID-19 is entirely different from perspective of modern medicine in COVID-19. Okay. In fact, in Ayurveda, there is nothing called COVID-19 also. There are viral fevers and different infective fevers in Ayurveda also. Ayurveda has a scientific comprehension of infective diseases, but COVID-19 as such, there is no virus in Ayurveda. So for the same reason, the limitations of modern medicine and limitations of Ayurveda are entirely different. It is not of the same level. Ayurveda is considering the immune response of the host towards the pathogens, whereas modern medicine is entirely considering upon the pathogen factor itself while combating infections. So it is not like same approach is not adopted in diagnosing and managing these infective fevers, let it be COVID-19 or anything. So the limitations of Ayurveda and modern medicine, as told by him, in the same level cannot be accepted. Being a scientific professional of Ayurveda, it cannot be, the statement is not able to be accepted by me, because the limitations can be assessed only based on the nature of scientificity, attitude and approach of medical system towards the disease, which is entirely different in the case of infections between Ayurveda and modern medicine. So what is considered to be the limitation of Ayurveda is entirely different from what is considered to be. Same is the case of scope also. Because to understand the limitations, first of all, we must be knowing the scope. So evaluating scope should be prior to evaluating limitations. Only if we are evaluating the scope, we will be able to tell about the limitations. So evaluation of scope is done by understanding the attitude and approach of diagnosis and management of that particular discipline of medical system towards the disease, which is entirely different in the case of Ayurveda and modern medicine. So we cannot consider that it is in the same level of limitations, sir. So I would like to hear from you on what basis you have interpreted it as same level of limitations, sir. Okay, and second point is Ayush system needs scientific research and evidence. So in my opinion, in my humble opinion, Ayush system is not Ayurveda. Ayush system comprises of Unani, Siddha, Homeopathy and Yoga and other systems also. So Ayurveda, when we are addressing Ayurveda community especially, we can, let us talk about the scientific research and evidence of Ayurveda itself instead of Ayush systems on the whole, because as we are handling all the diseases on the basis of Ayush systems, nowadays everything is considered to be on a common scale. So I think it would be fine if Ayurveda alone is considered, because when you are considering Ayurveda, let Ayurveda alone be considered. Why? Because it is an independent medical science. So, and it is an independent science-based medicine. So definitely it requires to be considered in its own independent food structure, basement, and it has to be researched on its own scientific perspective on an independent platform of research and not as a mix of Ayush systems. So this is what I humbly feel. And third point, you have mentioned, sir, that no magic bullet or single solution is possible for COVID-19. I think that is applicable in Ayurveda. I think you meant it for Ayush systems or Ayurveda. Then, sir, my question is, what is the objective of conducting new drug development for COVID-19? Actually, nowadays, claims are coming based on research that certain compounds are found beneficial in COVID-19 in Ayurveda. So if you tell that there is no magic bullet or single solution for the disease, then what is the scope of such a kind of research that single compound is developed for COVID-19 in Ayurveda now, which is accepted by government also. So I would like to know on what basis. I felt a little bit of contradiction between this, your current statement and this new drug development, which is done in COVID-19. So that is my third doubt. And medical errors, as you told, sir, medical errors are nothing but unintentional injuries. And you have referred to modern medicine like not choosing wisely. Treatment is not chosen wisely. There are too many medicines and therapies. There is no right care. And you are referring these things to modern medicine. But sir, I would like here to clarify that the same things, the same kind of medical errors and unintentional injuries detrimentally happening in Ayurveda, which nobody cares. So this is very much applicable to Ayurveda also. None of the treatments are chosen wisely in Ayurveda. Too many medical controversy in diagnosis is happening. Even Ayurveda students are very much confused. Many teachers will teach different ways of the same situation, same clinical situation, despite of science explaining uniform standards in decision making. So too many medicines and therapies and no right care. This is all happening in Ayurveda, sir, for many years. At least after independence also, there is no clinical audit. There is no prescription audit. There is no quality control in prescribing art. So this is what is happening in Ayurveda. So I think Ayurveda needs to attend this fact, because in Ayurveda it is very much emphasized that Ashuddha Chikitsa is to be avoided or abandoned. Ashuddha Chikitsa means the treatment which is not scientific, which is not scientifically rationalized. It cannot be rationalized by science, principles or logics of science. That is called Ashuddha Chikitsa. So our ancient scientists have recommended specific methodologies to abandon these impurities which happen in medical prescribing, but we are not following any rational prescribing standards in Ayurveda, sir. After independence, we are not following. So before we blame about the unintentional injury and medical errors of conventional community, I think it's high time for us to look inward. I mean, I don't know whether, sir, I am sorry. I believe that you are not an Ayurvedic medical professional, but I think Ayurveda medical professionals should definitely look inward and understand that there is a grave form of medical error and unintentional injury. It is unintentional injury is not a worth terminology. Why? Because we are learning to become scientific practitioners. And in scientific practice, science-based, logic-oriented practice, how this unintentional injury should happen. In modern medicine, it is starting with unknown compounds. So they can call it as unintentional injury. In Ayurveda, it should not be happen. Whatever injury happens, it is intentional itself. So high time that respected honorable ministry should target on adopting rational prescribing standards to avoid such medical errors which are widely, extensively happening in Ayurveda today. And sir, next point which I would like to clarify is that a comparative evaluation of performance of yoga, acupuncture, Ayurveda, etc. are mentioned by you. And you have told that Ayurveda is falling in scientific research compared to yoga, acupuncture, etc. Ayurveda is falling in scientific research. But I was surprised to see that the reasons were not touched by you. You have not mentioned the clear-cut reasons why it is so. Why Ayurveda is falling in scientific research. Actually, what I am finding is that Ayurveda CRAs like institutions are there. They are adopting the exact scientific methodology of what is happening in modern medicine, Western medicine, and they are doing a lot of research and lot of publications. But I don't know, still Ayurveda is not recognized as a medical system globally. So if it is falling like how you have remarked, we would like to get a clear-cut reason also why you are telling that, on what basis it is being told. And you also mentioned that absence of evidence is not the evidence of absence. So what was your intention of telling that? Whether research is unimportant or whether any change in research policy is required? I would like to get it clarified, because I had a doubt there whether means absence of evidence is not evidence of absence. So absence of evidence, on what basis it was interpreted by you that in Ayurveda there is absence of evidence? Because every time we are finding so many published stuffs as evidence. And if at all, do you mean that any change in the present research attitude and approach is required, or actually it was not clarified? And next point is transformation from evidence-based medicine to practice-based evidence, you have mentioned. So sir, this is not scientific in Ayurveda. Practice-based evidence is not scientific in Ayurveda. Why? Because practice-based evidence is just an experience. You know, any qualified Ayurveda practitioner can do anything. Right now there are no rational prescribing standards, rational diagnostic and clinical decision-making standards. For the last 75 to 100 years, nothing is adopted by Ayurveda practitioners. So anything can be done. A physician can make any kind of diagnosis for a case the way he wants, which could be exactly contradictory to another Ayurveda physician also. So there are no rational standards. So they are practicing their own way. They are practicing based on their own logics. They are prescribing several medicines. And how can you say that such a kind of practice-oriented benefits and risk? So definitely we are giving medicines and not placebos. So some benefits and risk will happen. Ayurveda is not meant to produce benefits and risk. Ayurveda is meant to produce a reversal of disease and health. Tadhaiva yuktam vaishadyam yad arogyaya kalpade. Acharya didn't say benefitaya kalpade. But when we practice, right now what we are counting is benefit and risk. So how can we say that these benefits and risk based on erroneous calculations in science, erroneous interpretations of Shastra, means scientific verses, and translation in patient? I can diagnose the way I want, another Ayurveda doctor can do the way he wants, and finally they are reaching some conclusions. So this cannot be practice-based evidences, practice-based experiences. They cannot be considered as evidence, because Acharya tells very correctly that Vina Tarkena Ya Siddhi Yadricha Siddhi Revacha. If scientific standards are not applied in rational decision making procedure, it could be considered as Yadricha Siddhi, by chance recovery. And such by chance recovery are asked to be strictly recommended to be abandoned by ancient clinician scientists. They are asking to practice science-based medicine. Shastra Sahita Tarko Sadhananam, that is mentioned in Ashtanga Sangraha. Shastra Sahita Tarko Sadhananam, the best tool for scientific decision making process is adopting the principles and logics of science-based medicine. Right now we are not adopting it. We are no way adopting it. We are learning science on one side. We are practicing with medicines based on tradition, experiences, etc. So, sir, my question is that how can you say that such a kind of irrational prescribing based experience becomes an evidence? It is not considered to be a scientific evidence in Ayurveda. So, Sadvritta, you have given an example as Sadvritta, practice of healthy habits. It will ensure health for an individual. But when you are, actually there are three kinds of treatments: Deva Vyapashraya, Yukti Vyapashraya and Sattva Vajaya. And the rational treatments are coming under the category, rational medication-oriented treatments intended in diseases are coming mainly under the category of Yukti Vyapashraya Chikitsa. So this kind of Satvritta or practice of healthy regimen diet is only a very small part of Yukti Vyapashraya Chikitsa. Yukti Vyapashraya Chikitsa incorporates scientific logics of understanding the disease conditions in that particular patient, understanding the patient, understanding the treatment, what kind of logic is to be applied to treat and reverse particular targets in the patient, and what kind of medicine is to be chosen, whether medicine is required or any without medicine, adravya treatments is possible. So if medicine is required, what dosage, what medicine, how long, when it is cured, all these aspects are to be considered, which is not possible by experience. See, when we are experience means blind prescribing only. Right now, no rational standards are adopted. So we cannot consider as Sadvrita as an example to substantiate that experience-oriented result can be considered as an evidence. So I think experience is valid only when it is based on Shastra Sahita Tarka or science-based logic, which is not happening today. Another point is that you have mentioned that dosha, dhadu, agni, guna, rasa, etc. To comprehend this, biotechnology can be applied. So, biotechnology, as I understand, is use of living systems and organisms to develop products or improve services. But these things, dosha, dhadu, agni, guna, etc. are very well explained in Ayurvedic biology. They are the entities present in a human being, not in isolated tissues or cultures or some artificial setting. They are the entities which are explained in a living healthy and unhealthy human being. It is explained. So, how can we transform or transfer these concepts to a biotechnology laboratory? It is impossible. If it is done also, what is derived cannot be considered as Ayurveda. Why? Because Ayurveda is a natural science and it is to be interpreted in the natural cause circumstances, in the natural living atmosphere of natural human being and not in isolated tissues or circumstances. So, I don't think biotechnology will be able to better explore dosha, dhatu, agni, etc. because they are already best explored in the science of Ayurveda. As Ayurveda community is not trying to understand it, comprehend it in the right sense, that is what is called Shastra Arthas. We are learning Shastra, but the true intentions of Shastra Arthas are not taught educated in Ayurveda colleges. So, people land in confusions. People are not sure what is dosha, dhadu, agni. So, people will interpret it in different ways they want. And finally, there is no conclusion. That is why we find the need of these artificial things like biotechnology, etc. to be integrated to Ayurveda to understand this. This is not correct actually. And also, sir, it is like if you want to teach Sanskrit to an English person, will it be okay if that English person, if this Sanskrit is or English grammar tool is applied in Sanskrit? If you apply English grammar tool in Sanskrit, will Sanskrit be conveyed to that English person? It is not possible, no. To learn Sanskrit, the basics of Sanskrit grammar is to be mandatorily learned by the English person. So this is what is happening, what is to be meant in Ayurveda also. Ayurveda is a science with its own innate code and technical infrastructure of scientificity within. So if an external person means unqualified person in Ayurveda, wants to learn Ayurveda, he must start from the basic biology of Ayurveda in Ayurvedic terms. If he feels uncomfortable, he can never learn Ayurveda. He can never comprehend Ayurveda. He can never translate Ayurveda. He can never successfully apply Ayurveda. He can never interpret Ayurveda also. Simple. Sanskrit, if you want to learn Sanskrit, if you do not know Sanskrit, you have to learn Sanskrit. There is no shortcut for that. In the same way, if one wants to know Ayurveda, if the Western community wants to know the scientificity of Ayurveda, definitely we can show the results of Ayurveda. we can show the results. But if they want to know how, why, etc., definitely we have our own logic-oriented methods, which they have to learn, understand, and they can easily understand. But learning is required. Just like an English person trying to learn Sanskrit. Sanskrit cannot be taught in English to an English person. Same method is applicable here. And another point you have told that Prakriti cannot be studied even in, so yes, Prakriti you were mentioning to study in CSIR laboratory. Sir, in my humble opinion, it's not possible. Because Prakriti is a natural entity in a natural human being. Prakriti is not something which can be isolated in a lab. It is something which is naturally interpreted in a natural human being from birth. So it is not possible to study in a CSIR laboratory, no matter how much technologically advanced the laboratory is. So that will be a very bad example for analytical reductionism, and that will spoil the very scientificity and identity of the science of Ayurveda. And you are also mentioning about isolation of hundreds of bioactive molecules and from certain compounds. Sir, actually rationalization of medicinal formulations in Ayurveda is not done based on bioactive molecules. This is the major mistake which is happening in Ayurvedic research today. We are going behind hundreds and thousands of bioactive molecules. We are not able to reach any conclusions. Sir, there is definite scientific pharmacology, pharmacodynamics and kinetics principles of Ayurveda, which can be successfully applied to intervene upon the action and effectiveness of these Ayurvedic formulations. And we cannot isolate a formulation and study. We have to study, obviously we can study formulation separately, but coming to treatment, we have to connect. We have to understand the disease. We have to understand the disease in the patient. We have to understand the samprapti in the patient. We have to understand which all logics are to be applied in the samprapti. And we have to discover or explore the right principle or logic which is intended to be applied in that particular etiopathogenesis in that particular patient. And we have to discover the medicine intended to reverse the samprapti. So a medicine in Ayurveda is to be explored. This is my personal discovery only. A medicine is to be explored based on three aspects: Bheshaja karma, Doshakna karma and Yogagna karma. Bheshaja karmas we are having Deepana, Pajana, Anulomana, Samsana, Bhedana, Rechana, so many, Leghana, Virechana, Shamana. In Shamana itself, 7 types are there. So these are the different types of logics. So that is Bheshaja karma. Which Bheshaja karma is to be applied here, and whether this medicine is having this Bheshaja karma. Doshakna karma. When you consider any single herbs or yogas, Doshakna karmas are mentioned. Like for example, Tikta Amrda Tradoshakni, Grahin Yushna Rasayani, Deepani Jaratraddaha, Kamala Vataraktanit. So Doshakna karma, Tikta Amrda Tradoshakni, it is Tradoshakni. And Bheshaja karma, Grahi Ushna Rasayana, Deepana. Rogagna karma, Jwara, Daha, Kamala, Rektapitta. So all these diseases, so all the yogas or herbs are having 3 kinds of actions: Bheshaja karma, Doshakna karma and Rogagna karma. And after appraising these 3 actions, we have to decide whether this particular formulation is fitting for this particular patient in this particular condition. So this is how a formulation, we have hundreds and thousands of scientific formulations and herbs in Ayurveda. There is no need to develop new drugs in Ayurveda. We have hundreds and thousands of formulations. What we are lacking is the knowledge of rational choice and application of these medicines in various conditions. So for that, we need to adopt clinical research based on different conditions, real clinical setting of patients. We have to translate the principles of these applied science of pharmacology of Ayurveda into the patient setting. So that's what Acharya told. Sukshmanihi dosha ushada dusya desha kala bala anala ahara sattva satmya prakriti vayasam avasthandarani yani anuchindyamanani tam nihanti aduram. If he is not considering If the physician is not considering the subtlemost aspects of these things, dosha, aushadha, dushya, desha, kala, bala, anala, ahara, rasa, satya, sattva, prakriti, all these, and administer medicine, what will happen? Tam nihanti aduram, that can kill the patient. So, alochyamanani, suppose a scientist is considering these aspects also. Vimala vipula buddherabi buddhi makuli kuriya. Even those people, those scientists who are having clear intelligence and vast intelligence, even they will get confused while assessing these parameters. Sukshmanihi, dosha, aushadha, dushya, desha, bala, kala, anala, ahara. Even in bala, there are so many aspects. Samprapti bala, hedu bala, lakshana bala, rogi bala. So many different aspects come under bala itself. Like that, every parameter has many sub-parameters. So after considering all these parameters, we have to decide what to do for the patient. This is what is called research in Ayurveda. Research of a medicine in Ayurveda. And Vimala Vipula Buddherabi Buddhi Maguli Kurya. Kim Punar Alpa Buddhehe. So what will be the condition of Alpa Buddhi individuals? Those who have not learned science properly. Those who have not comprehended these basic principles of diagnosis and pharmacology properly. How they will be able to make rational prescribing. So for that, Acharya explains a solution. Also in Ashtanga Sangraha, Bheshajavajaraniya, chapter 23. Tasmat abhikshnashaha shastra artha karmanushīlanena samskurveda prajñām. So what an Ayurveda physician must do? Every physician should be a scientist. He should be continuously learning, pondering, comprehending the true intentions of science. Shastra arthas. Shastra artha karmanushīlanena. Continuous practice of Shastra arthas. Shastra artha karmanushīlanena samskurveda prajñām. Prajñā samskarana, culturing of intelligence is to be done. This is for research. This is what research is meant for in Ayurveda. Right now we are not no way connected to this kind of research in Ayurveda. Then how can you expect, how can we expect some development in research of Ayurveda? How can we expect a fruitful conclusion or confirmation by research of Ayurveda? We are doing baseless trial and error methods. Trial and error research by compound after compound. There is no use. Actually, what is being done today is no way connected with what is intended to be done in Ayurvedic research. So this point I would like to highlight. So if Tribala is identified different bioactive molecules, hundreds of bioactive molecules working in 100 different targets also, if nobody knows how to choose Tribala, how to apply Tribala, where to apply, how to apply, when not to apply, etc., etc., what is the use of understanding that these biomolecules are present in Tribala and they are having multiple actions? What is the use of understanding? Ultimately, we are not administering bioactive molecules from Tribala. We are administering Tribala itself. So, we should be knowing exactly how Tribala is to be connected to human being, intended clinical status. This is not research now. This is not educated also now. So, we are entirely in an abnormal pathway now. And we are calling it as research also. That is the worst thing. And sir, you have told about high impact research on Agni, Rasa, Guna, etc. Sir, in my humble opinion, the assumption behind publishing in high impact journal is that it follows a well established peer review system. Sir, I doubt whether peers exist in Ayurveda today. Because I have not seen any standard peer review journal in Ayurveda till date. Most of the things which are explained in peer review journals are no way connected to the practice of intended knowledge and practice of science-based medicine. So the condition to be, the bitter truth is that currently there are no peers in Ayurveda. So if there are no peers in Ayurveda, how will a peer review journal emerge? And if peer review journals are not emerging, where is the question of high impact journal and citation? If blunders are cited by hundreds of people also, it will stay as blunders only. Only when science is applied, there is sense. Otherwise, it will stay as blunders only. So, in my opinion, this publishing in high impact research on Agni, Rasa, Guna, etc. is of no use today in the present circumstances, because nobody is knowing how to understand Agni, Rasa, Guna, Virya, Vipaka, etc. in a rationalized approach explained in the science. Everybody is interpreting in their own way and translating in their own way into patient conditions. So this is the situation which is happening today. And finally, advanced aspects of Langhana, Agni, etc. got Nobel Prize, you were telling. So Ayurveda is not getting Nobel Prize because you were telling that such kind of impact factor journals, publication in impact journals are not happening. Sir, actually, you were asking to integrate also. So if Ayurvedic basic sciences, treatment principles, logics, etc. are attempted to be integrated with the Western science, okay, for the better understanding of Western community. As I told you, it is like an Englishman trying to learn Sanskrit using English. So naturally it will be neither Sanskrit nor English. In such a way Ayurveda is existing now. It is neither Ayurveda nor Western science. So in such a way, how can we expect Ayurveda to get Nobel Prize, sir? How can we expect Ayurveda to get Nobel Prize? Because Ayurveda is not even applied in Ayurveda research. Even Ayurveda is nowhere in the scene. So if it is published hundreds or thousands of times in impact journals also, as the rational principles of Ayurveda is never comprehended and scientifically comprehended and translated, and not published also, and not researched also, then where is the possibility of Ayurveda getting Nobel Prize? If at all Ayurveda has to get Nobel Prize, Ayurveda is to be comprehended. Ayurvedic science is to be comprehended and applied scientifically in the research methodology of Charaka, Susruta and Vagbhada, and it has to be comprehended in such a manner, and it has to be scientifically applied in right condition, in the right manner. Then only there is any reason for Nobel Prize in Ayurveda. Otherwise, it will be either it will become Western science. If you isolate biomolecules and interpret some action, it becomes Western science. It is not Ayurveda. So Ayurveda is much more. It is a natural science. It's a highly brilliant science, and it is a holistic science. So we can do much more than what Western conventional sciences are doing in the matter of man. But unfortunately, as the attitude and approach of current methodology of comprehension, translation and research are completely absurd and flawed, we are not able to do it effectively. So these are some of the doubts which I felt I should be asking you directly, and I hope that you will be able to respond to me as a video or even direct communication also. I am ready for that also, sir. Even I am looking forward for that, because these things, when these kind of lectures will be heard by hundreds and thousands of people all over the world, and finally it will be ultimately interpreted as this is what Ayurveda is. So being a responsible scientific professional of Ayurveda, I thought I should be clarifying and I should be asking certain doubts to you based on this. Thank you, sir. Jai Hind.